the Old Egyptian Museum, and I refer to it as the Old Egyptian Museum because the new Egyptian Museum isn't open yet. And even though they've removed an enormous amount of stuff from that museum, it's still absolutely packed with interesting things. So there's all kinds of interesting things that you see in the museum, like this little piece of crystal. Then there's lots of statues which have the wands of Horus. And if you remember, I've done the episode which describing how they're levitational devices, and all kinds of statues. So another lot of statues with the wands of Horus, which came in a variety of shapes and sizes, but all functioned in the same way. And of course the Nama palette, which is an essential thing to see when you're at the Egyptian Museum, which is absolutely amazing to see in person. And then, of course, more wands of Horus. You can tell that I'm very interested in the wands of Horus, can't you? Because it's just so amazing the way that the dynastic Egyptians perceived this particular tool that we had. And there are lots of really amazing little things that I knew that the dynastic Egyptians just hadn't made. When you look at the stone base on this cute little bowl, it's just definitely not what the dynastic Egyptians would do. And then there's like lots of little tags with writing on them. These were pre-dynastic, so very, very old and very cute, really. They're quite tiny. And then, of course, there's this weird-looking thing. I've seen pictures of it before, but then to see it in person was quite amazing, really. Then, of course, my favourites are the stone vessels. And, of course, there were so many of these beautiful stone vessels. And I've had a massive number of dreams about them. I tried to photograph this as close as possible so that you can see how smooth the surface is on this bowl. This one that I've just appeared rings a bell, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And then you've got these cute little animals. Now, what fascinates me about these is they're listed as game pieces, and these are exactly the same sorts of game pieces that we would use for the game of herds. The game of herds was very, very big in Tantal, and so we had a lot of little statues of animals and various even not quite real animals. But it was amazing to see in the museum so many items that, from my perspective, were from the game of herds. Then, of course, the piece de résistance, if that's how you say it, the schist disc, and it's exactly how I remember it. So you really need to check out my episode on the schist disc, where I explain how it was really just a replica of something that we wanted back from the dynastic Egyptians. A few more of the amazing stone vessels, just so many of these beautiful, beautiful items, and they're all listed as pre-dynastic, prehistory. And they're sitting alongside some pretty pathetic-looking pottery items. Unbelievable. Then you've got items like this also listed in pre-dynastic. It's another item which is a stone version of something metal, something that we wanted back. So we, gave them a few things that we thought they'd want and gave them a replica of the thing that they were going gaga over. There were so many of the wands of Horus, I just couldn't help myself. I just kept taking photo after photo, and I'm only showing you a few of them. But it's clearly a big emphasis that the dynastic Egyptians had on these items that they saw us with. So it's kind of intriguing, really. Then, of course, there's lots and lots of stone boxes, and you've seen my episodes on how those were made, so there'd be no surprises for you there. But it was just so nice to see so many of them. and different shapes and sizes, and the harder the stone, the more interesting. Now, these are statues that I've seen photos of many times, but I couldn't believe that they were actually quite small. But the interesting thing was that I looked at the back of the statue, and the actual tool marks were consistent with the tools that I've described in some of my earlier episodes. Now, this one, I just couldn't resist taking a photo of these eyes. They just seem alive, and they're blue and they're beautiful. A statue of Sekhmet, I think it is. Another hard stone statue. I find the statues of the apron quite intriguing. Then, of course, there's the Akhenaten and his wife Nefertiti, and more stone items. This one's very intriguing, and more beautiful statues. And this amazing bird statue, Horus, and an intriguing looking sandal. So there was the Tutankhamun display. We couldn't take photos inside the actual gold where they kept all the gold, but we could take photos of the statues and the ordinary items. So this is just a few of those photos, and it was just wonderful to see it up front and in person. And here's just another little cute things and jewelry and stuff that I thought was particularly interesting, and a few symbols. Now, I'm quite into the symbols because I'm trying to work out how the dynastic Egyptians got their symbols and interpreted them from what they saw of us. Because if you remember, I've said before that sometimes it was like they were watching us, especially in Kim. So it's just kind of fun trying to work out how they interpreted things from what they saw. So I've got lots of photos of the various symbols, and of course a few more of the old pottery and old stonework. And it's interesting to see the patterns on some of the old pottery, and you are left wondering, what is it that they were communicating with that pottery? Now, this is a sarcophagus that I think is silver, and then as you're leaving, this is one of the sphinxes. So overall, that's a pretty quick overview